Welcome to another episode of Color Commentary with Dr. Cole, a podcast where the stories shaping our world are told in black and white first, and then we dig into the deeper meaning in full color. Each week, I'll be bringing you news like this. First, we'll start with what I like to call the black and white section, a clear, straight shooting rundown of the facts and tradition of the greats like Ed Bradley, Walter Cronkite, and the classical voices of journalism. Then we'll shift into the color commentary section, where I add my own personal opinions and insights. Sometimes it'll just be me. Sometimes we'll have guests. But let's figure out together exactly what this show can be. We're going to do it together with your feedback that is helping shape this journey. So please leave those comments, email us, all the good stuff. But for now, let's get into it. Last week, two very, very influential intellectuals in America sat down and had a conversation that's been rippling through social media and group chats ever since. Here are the facts, black and white. After the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, New York Times columnist Ezra Klein wrote a piece that many saw as too sympathetic to Kirk's legacy. Ta-Nehisi Coates responded with a piece in Vanity Fair criticizing Klein's take, comparing it to the whitewashing of the Confederate cause after the Civil War. Klein then invited Coates onto his podcast, The Ezra Klein Show, to discuss their disagreement. That conversation lasted over an hour. Other things to make sure that you all know is that Klein and Coates are friends. Klein argued that the left has begun writing off too many people, that we need to engage with voters who disagree with us, even profoundly, if we want to win elections and protect vulnerable people. Coates argued that there are lines that just simply can't be crossed, that if someone's politics is built on dehumanizing others, there's no conversation to be had. He also argued that Black Americans have always understood that losing is a possibility, and that doesn't make us fatalists. It makes us realists. So we are not fatalistic in that thinking, just happen to be realistic in ways that might look different to other people. As I've already said, both men are friends. Both men want the Democratic Party to win. Both men disagree on how to get there. And those are the facts. So that's the news of it all. Now let's talk about it. You're listening to Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. So I have a few different thoughts on this story. Before I get into what Coates and Klein actually said, I need to say something that might make some of you uncomfortable. But stop looking for journalists, celebrities, musicians, ball players, people in pop culture, whoever. Stop looking for these people to be your leaders. Seriously, stop it. Now, journalism is a little different because you need a trusted source, because how would you know much of the news? But even in journalists, it has shifted. The landscape is different. So stop looking for the people that agree with you so you can go grab pom-poms and root them on. It's not a basketball team. It's not your favorite rock band. All right? Stop looking for heroes in pop culture. I just see this all the time. We elevate podcasters, public intellectuals, writers, rappers, ball players, and celebrities to this status where we expect them to speak for us, lead us, tell us what to think. And then when they say something we don't like, we feel betrayed. That's not their job. That's your job. Look to journalists to have journalistic integrity. Force them to be clearer on when they're reporting the news versus when they're giving you their opinion. Those are two very, very different things, and we've lost the distinction. This is especially dangerous in our community. When I say our community, I'm talking about the Black community, okay? All are welcome, but I'm gonna talk to what I know, all right? There's a subset of my people, mainly the elderly, but not just them, where we are all kind of tribal. And sometimes charismatic people misuse that tribal trust. Let me give you an example. I am a huge, huge fan of Black Lives Matter, the movement. I've been tear gassed. I've been out there in the streets when all that was happening. The uprisings, the protests, the collective demand for justice, that was real. That was necessary. That was ours. But the organization, the actual Black Lives Matter org, the one that's now under scrutiny from damn near everyone for how money was handled, that's different. I don't think you can trust them in the same way. I do not. Not trying to upset you or offend you, but I'm being very honest. Do not trust that organization. Always I trust that movement, but not that organization that was behind it. And that's the lesson right there. All skin folk ain't kin folk. And here's the tale. The ones that ain't kin folk tend to lean so much more heavily on you needing to support them solely because of their race than they do on logically explaining why what they're pushing is actually better for you and our community as a whole. Let me explain more. Think about some of my heroes: Fred Hampton, Huey P. Newton, Ida B. Wells, Baldwin, Fannie Lou Hamer, Maya Angelou. You don't love them just because they were Black leaders. You love them because they articulated that Blackness while also providing sound and reasonable logic backed by facts and history. They combine that with their charisma. They combine that with their literary skills, with their ability to tell stories, their ability to give a talk, right? The way, like, Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail is studied because it's such an excellent use of ethos, pathos, and logos, right? You see the difference? It's not just support me because I'm Black. It's here's why this analysis is correct. Here's the historical context. Here's the data. Here's the strategy. When someone can't give you that and just falls on, you should support me because we're both Black, that's when you need to start asking more questions. The way that I want that to come is I want that sound logic, I want that sound rationale, and I want you saying, as a Black person, you need to know this, and you make your own decision. But anybody asking you to deify them, you want to ask more questions. Just because someone looks like you, talks like you, or claims to represent you doesn't mean that they're working for you. We got to vet our leaders the same way we vet everyone else, maybe even harder. Ta-Nehisi Coates is one of the greatest writers of our time. Between The World and Me is prose to me. He has shades of James Baldwin in his writing that makes me want to be a better writer myself. But Coates isn't my leader. He doesn't always speak for me, but I will go to war for him. Those skills that he got, that brother is special. Let me say that again. He is special. And he writes from a particular position, a Black intellectual elite that I respect, but I don't belong to. I don't vacation in the Hamptons. I'm not on par with that crowd. And I ain't too good for it. You want to shoot me a bag to go to the Hamptons to kick it? It would be Inkwell all day over here, all right? Ezra Klein, on the other hand, is a sharp political thinker. I do respect his work, but he represents a particular kind of liberal anxiety. White men who are used to having power are having crisis of consciousness at this moment about how to keep it while being the good guys. And neither one of them is operating from where I operate from. And that's okay. Again, let me say that part louder. That is okay. It is okay for me to admire and love and feel a kinship to much of what Ta-Nehisi Coates writes about and talks about, even though I know in a lot of lived experiences, I just have not experienced the type of life that he has. My life is not as charmed as his in certain ways, but his scholarship, his ability to write, he truly is a beautiful writer. And Ezra's not, I don't go look for Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein doesn't really make it to my circles in the same way, but I can see the power of his voice. I can see the way that people listen. I can see the way that the New York Times listens anytime he wants to write anything. Even when he gets to this place, we're going to do this thing around abundance, and maybe we should kind of back off of always just supporting Black people. He ain't say that verbatim, but many listening to this conversation will surmise that that's the shift that's trying to be made. Let me go a little deeper, because I've gotten some feedback that you all like when I get somewhat personal and personalize the story. So let me do that. Let me contextualize with myself. I went through doctoral studies. I was trained to do something that doesn't really work well in this current tribal moment. And that's when I believe in something emotionally, I have a duty to go read the counter arguments to my viewpoint and vet those the hardest. I can't fall in love with my emotions. They're there, they get acknowledged. I deserve to have them. I'm human. But if somebody's looking to me as an authority on something, I have to get all the data, and I have to be conscious to overdo this on things that I feel very strongly about. Okay? So I don't do this to weaken my position, but to strengthen it. Not to abandon what I believe, but to understand it better. That doesn't work well in the real world right now, though. We're more tribal every day. And everybody picks a side and declares the other side stupid or evil, and then only consumes content that confirms what they already believe. I'm no different from anyone else. I have my tribes, my perspective, my biases, but I try to maintain that discipline of engaging with ideas that challenge me, which often makes you somewhat of a contrarian in your personal group. When the whole group is thinking something, I mean, I just feel like something is missing in the room if we're not even considering these other sides. They could be vile, they could be things that I do not agree with, but I have to wrestle. Part of my job is to wrestle with tough ideas. And I think as a country, we are starting to struggle more with wrestling with ideas that we don't agree with. Like when I was doing my dissertation, I had to read about Jonathan Ogbu. You'll hear about him more in this conversation. But Ogbu, for all intents and purposes, in my mind, he was this African dude, black cat who was at UC Berkeley and didn't really like American-born Black people. It became very evident. It's very evident in the research that I read from him. And my chair just used to also happen to intern for him. And I have nothing disparaging to say about Mr. Ogbu, except that I don't, like I said, agree with many of his sentiments. But when I'm doing my work on agency, when I'm doing my work on Black boys in schools, I have to read what one of the foremost, people in that field was writing at the time. And he wrote a lot of shit that I don't dig, but I had to read it and I had to document it. I had to wrestle with those thoughts. That's what I'm saying, right? Like it's not fun to do, but I had to, that's 10, 15 articles about things that he believed and then going into and then looking at his citations and then going and reading those citations. That's the journey you go on when you say you want to be an intellectual. You have to consider a lot of different things. Some people might say that sucks. You don't have to do it, but I expect you to do it if you're a journalist. I expect you to do it if you're a public intellectual. I expect you to do it if you're a community leader. Does that make sense? So let's bring it back to Coates and Klein. So what actually happened when Coates and Klein talked? Well, they disagreed as friends with respect and with intellectual honesty. I do feel like there was some intellectual honesty there. Klein is asking, how do we win? Meaning the Democrats, the left, society as a whole, if you let him tell it, right? How do we get power back so we can protect the people who need protecting? Coates is asking something fundamentally different. How do we maintain our principles? How do we not compromise on basic humanity in pursuit of political victory? And I think they're both valid questions. They're both necessary questions. Klein's worry, we become a party that writes people off. We've drawn the boundaries of acceptable politics so narrowly that we can't win Senate seats in places we used to dominate. And Coates' worry is that some lines just cannot be blurred. If your politics is built on dehumanizing people, there's no bridge to build there. Like your politics can lead to my death, player. That's what Coates is saying, right? And you know what? They're both right, and I think they're both wrong because the answer is more complicated than either position allows at times. Now, here's where I land. If you're asking me to give you an emotional response to if I have to pick who I'm rocking with more from this group, it's not a contest. It's Coates all day. Because Coates can speak to people's hearts, and he speaks to Black people's hearts in an industry that is not dominated by Black people. So he is that much more important, especially during these times. He will be studied long after I'm gone, long after he's gone. But we also have to have these conversations around strategy. And it's okay to be like, how do we accomplish both of these things and make sure that we actually are getting the win so we got the power to do what needs to be to govern appropriately? So the strategic question, here's where I land. I want a Democratic Party that wins. I want a Dem party that's strategic and can execute without constantly shooting themselves in the foot. I also don't want them having to pander to everything and everyone at all times. I also refuse to compromise on humanity of people. Klein brings up the example of the New Deal. FDR excluded black people to get Southern votes, and that exclusion helped build the American middle class. Was that good politics? Yes. Was it moral? No. No. It wasn't. And Coates' response was perfect. Were I there in that time, it would be incumbent upon me to yell at FDR to not do that. Now, I do think that there are some people that are big FDR people that will say that it didn't happen that way, but let's not get sidetracked. I acknowledge that there are other thoughts on that topic, but that's the tension. Politicians have one job, intellectuals have another, activists have another, organizers have another, but all of us have the same duty to make the contribution we're supposed to make in the time we have. Like, I am somebody that understands this kind of ground, this unheralded no man's land where it operates. Let me be very clear. In the Midwest, outside of Chicago, more so, Chicago, has pretty liberal tendencies, but it's a fair mix. But let's say the greater Midwest, I am probably a very radical person. I'm a pretty radical left person. Now, sometimes I'm too pragmatic, though, to be that in Oakland, meaning that my exact same politics, for instance, I have a gun license. I'm a licensed carrier. I'm a licensed concealed carrier person. I've trained on it. I don't necessarily like guns, but I have them. Right? I don't see that as a Republican or right-wing thing. And I will tell you, the vast majority of Democrats in the greater Midwest, give or take some Chicago people, a lot of Democrats feel that way. And there are a lot of people within my party that are so much more left, especially in the Bay Area where I grew up in, that feel like guns should be abolished. To them, that's not a super left-leaning take. Say that shit in the Midwest to anybody, Republican or Democrat. It's just different. So I understand as somebody who lives in this world where I'm seeing one way in one place and another in another. And it's very vastly different. It's wild. It's quite wild. And it also sometimes scares me about the party, which I've held position in before. I'm not in love with how they handled this last election, which I've been very vocal about. But instead of us getting better and figuring out what to do next time, there's a lot of people just trying to be right this time. And I think that that's a problem. And there's something missing from the conversation. So here's what frustrates me about the reaction to this conversation. Everyone immediately tried to declare a fucking winner. Coates destroys Klein. Klein exposed Coates' fatalism. Klein is a secret racist. Coates is an intellectual snob that is not grounded in reality. I've seen all of it. And they wrote this shit like they were trying to do that to each other when these men clearly started out by saying that they are friends. Like, they text, like, not all the time, just for work. And they have immense power. One has the power of the pen at the New York freaking Times to write his immediate thoughts on Charlie Kirk before even processing his feelings. That's power. And the other one was able to just call up Vanity Fair and I got something. Listen, as somebody who writes and as somebody who has been published in Ebony, and I was one of the proudest moments of my life, it wasn't even a magazine, it was just Ebony Online. It is difficult to get into those places. So kudos to both of these men for having the power that they got. But everybody instantly took sides, like they went in there buck and brolic with each other. And what I'm saying to the people that's arguing about it on a Coates side or Klein side is that those two are much more likely to hang out with each other, love each other, be friends with each other, know each other's family than your black or white ass has of being able to get to them. You understand? They're still a secret club, an elite club. And I'm not mad at them for occupying it. I'm mad at you for not recognizing they occupying it and move accordingly. Just understand the relationship you're in. That's all. It's just that critical thinking that we all need. Because when I do that, I can listen to both Coates and I can listen to Ezra, and I can come away with a bunch of different things from both of these parts, and I can leave the pieces behind that I'm not vibing with. Coates destroyed Klein. Klein exposed Coates to fatalism. That's not what happened. What happened was two intelligent men who are friends worked through a genuine disagreement in public with decorum and respect. And we've lost that. We've completely lost the ability to engage with differences of opinions and come out smarter on the other side. I miss intellectual conversations, even when I disagree with both people. I want to live in a society where we can argue about ideas without it becoming tribal warfare, where you have to pick a side. Now, there are times when you absolutely need to pick a side. I'm just saying, two friends having a conversation between themselves is not where you go lose other friends. Too many of y'all are losing people that you love over half thought out comments and arguments. And us being as disjointed as we are, whether I'm talking about us as a black people, Democrats as a party, even the independents or Republican, everybody and no one is the emperor from the emperor's new clothes. Like, everybody's naked, man. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Even you, even these people that you are putting all this faith into. Faith is reserved for God and deities, Bree. Like, these are mortal men. And these are two people that if you are a left-leaning or center-left or center person, that in the grand scheme of things, kind of agree with you. Can we not be as so sensitive to not hear both of these different type of arguments and figure out the best way to come out strong? Is that not strategy? Has strategy become a bad word? I'll go more into it, but Coates did get a lot right. I need to just be clear about something. And I have to name my bias. And this is why I'm going as hard as I am. Because I truly love Coates' work. Every bit of nonfiction that Coates has written, I am there for. In just in the front of the line all the time. I've dabbled in some of the fiction stuff. I have no thoughts and no judgment on it. But his bag with Dr. Cole is his nonfiction stuff. That man can write. Between the World and Me is just one of the most beautiful pieces of prose I've just ever read. The Baldwin calls are just beautiful to me. That ability to make you feel the weight of history in a single sentence. Well, and then in the next one, describing this utter beauty, right? Baldwin is one of the reasons I struggle and wrestle with this country, but ultimately love it. Because I had to read and listen to somebody who actually left the United States and still yearned for parts of it, even though he wasn't always the most welcome here. Because he would eventually return. His writings are the ones that's like, no, this place belongs to you too. You are an American, you are a Black American, you have a different experience, but this is your home. Critique it, criticize it, make it better, and still love it. I got a lot of people in my family I love. I don't like them all the time. Love them always. Do I like them always? No. And if you're being honest, do you like your family members all the time? You might love them. Do you like them all the time? Be honest with yourself. Respond in the comments for me if you always like all and everybody in your family. Let's see who does that. But back to this. I love Coates. And in this conversation, there were moments where Coates said things that hit me deep. When he talked about being part of a larger tradition, about people who fought and died without seeing victory. That's my tradition too. When he said, we are not happy, but we are not surprised. That's exactly how I felt watching 2024 unfold. That's how I felt when I watched Trump win the first time. His point about political violence being the norm for the Black experience is facts. Just facts. And his refusal to celebrate someone whose politics was built on dehumanizing people, I'm with him on that. When Mr. Kirk died, when Charlie Kirk died, Charlie, however you refer to him, I don't have a need to disrespect him. I don't need to kick it more. I think it was a tragedy what I watched. I watched somebody get publicly executed and assassinated on TV. I didn't want to see that. I'm also not going out of my way to make him the white Martin Luther King Jr. either, because that's not what he is to me. I don't agree with his politics. I don't agree with what he said and how he said it. And I see innocent people die all the time. I grew up in between Oakland and Chicago, greater Chicago area, Oakland and the Bay Area. I lost a lot of friends. And Flags did not get raised halfway up to honor them when they got killed on some stupid shit, when they didn't have to die. But I can understand the tragedy. I can understand people that do like him and care about him feeling some kind of way, but I'm not going to be out of ordinary left or right on that. I'm not going to go out of my way and talk about how sad and sorry I am about what happened. And I'm also not going to go out of my way to like crip walk on homie's grave. I just don't, it's not the way I'm set up. So back to Coates, his points about political violence being a norm for the Black experience. Yes, man. We have political violence happen to us all the time. Now, if you ask me to pick a side, it's obvious and not difficult for me at all. Klein, as a powerful white man, has the luxury of moving off strong ideals, bending with the political winds. Meanwhile, Black people, especially those of a certain tax bracket, are perpetually stuck in this political derecho. And we can't afford to be flexible about our humanity because we're the ones who lose when these compromises get made. And at times, it sounds like Klein is okay with that for the greater of the party. And you need to hear it. You need to know it. You need to hear what one of the more respected Democratic strategists or whatever, however you view Ezra Klein, you need to actually ask and engage with him so you can hear, because he has his thumbprint on a large number and swath of people who also happen to be Democrats. He's not saying these things in a vacuum. He's not the only person saying this. Usually, because of the pride that he takes in his work and who he is, he prides himself on being connected to the people, but to his people. So don't call it out so quick that they forget to say the quiet part out loud. Klein said it a few times, and I ain't mad at him because now you know. You see what I'm saying? Now you can make better informed decisions. Maybe it will cause people within the Democratic Party to be more business-minded because you and your humanity, Black person, especially Black person of a certain tax bracket, you are on the proverbial chopping block. And I have news for you. You were never off it. But here's the thing. I can name that, I can be aware of that, and I can still engage with both perspectives. Coates understands something that Klein struggles with. For Black Americans, this isn't new. Political violence, we've been living with it since we got here. The possibility of losing, that's always been on the table, and most of us have lost more than we've won. The idea that hate can win elections, we've seen it before. And this is not some victim mentality stuff. This is a brush with reality. Winners know. The people that win the most know that losing is part of winning. They know this. Talk to Tom Brady. Talk to Serena Williams. Talk to Michael Jordan. Losing and sacrifices is necessary to get to the end of path that's paved by championship. It's necessary. When Coates says he's not fatalistic, he's being honest. He's not saying that we're going to lose. He's saying losing is possible. And you fight anyway. It's not pessimism. That's realism born for 400 years of American history. Klein hears that and worries it becomes fatalism, that if you expect to lose, you stop trying to win, but misses the point. My ancestors fought to end slavery and never saw it. Many of them did. They fought for voting rights, and some were murdered before they got them. Talking about the greater, larger Black family, this shared lineage that I have. But they fought for dignity and they died in that struggle. So many people did. And I'm here because of them, because they fought even when they didn't know if they'd win. It's not fatalism. That's faith. That's duty. But Klein got some things right too. Klein's asking a real question. What do we do when 40% of the country is on the wrong side of the line we want to draw? Do we just give up on them? Do you write off entire states? Except that we'll never win in Missouri or Kansas or Arkansas or Kentucky again. And maybe I have to call out my own bias, right? I used to live in Kentucky. I love Kentucky. I plan to buy a house there one day that's just a chill home and just be. So do we just give up on that? We just write off that state and say, nah, we don't keep fighting for justice there? Because if we do that, we lose the Senate. And if we lose the Senate, we can't protect nobody. That's not hypothetical. That's just math. Klein was hitting on some stuff. I'm going to give him his credit. Klein's point about the Affordable Care Act is important. When it passed in 2010, there were 40 House Democrats who were pro-life at some level. You had to negotiate with them, and it was messy, and it was uncomfortable. But you know what? We got healthcare for millions of people. And if we would have been on more of an accord, we could have got single payer. But that's a whole different conversation. Now, we don't have those Democrats anymore. We have a pure party. We came past the Affordable Care Act. So Klein's asking, what's more important? Ideological purity or the ability to help everybody, to actually help people? What are your thoughts? Let me know. Email me or leave them in the comments. Here's what I think both of them miss. And it's because neither of them operates from where I operate from. For people in my community, from where I come from, poor Black people navigating broken systems every day, they don't have the luxury of choosing between strategy and principles all the time. You need both. We need politicians who can win so they can protect us. We need intellectuals who won't compromise on our humanity. We need organizers who build power in our communities. And we need educators who teach people to navigate and change systems. It's not either or. It's all of the above. I introduced this last time, this 3 layers of authenticity and action. I'm gonna talk about it some more because I believe in it, and I think it actually fits this. The 3 layers of authenticity. Layer 1, the core. Both Coates and Klein stay true to their non-negotiables. Coates won't compromise on humanity. Klein won't stop asking how we win. Both positions are rooted in their values. Layer 2, the strategic self. This is where they differ. Klein is asking, what do we need to say and do to win power? Coates is asking, what truths do we need to tell regardless of whether it wins us power? Both questions are necessary. Both roles are important. Layer 3, the intimate self. They're friends. They texted before this went public. They invited each other to talk it out. That's the model. They didn't perform for social media. They didn't try to dunk on each other. They had a real good faith conversation. So what do I want? Well, if I stay in this party, which I've been in since I could vote, and like I said, I'm somebody with skin in the game. I've served in this party in official capacity before, knocked on doors for people. I've fully engaged in the democratic process. I have been a Democratic leader before, as a Democrat. I want a society that doesn't require me to argue for my basic humanity. I want a party that can actually win elections, that can actually execute when we need them to execute most. I want leaders who are strategic enough to build coalitions and principled enough to not sell us out. I want a culture where we can disagree and come out smarter. I want my people to stop looking for celebrities and athletes and musicians to lead them and start building power in their own communities. I want the left to stop shooting itself in the foot with purity tests while the right consolidates power. But most of all, I want us to get back to engaging with differences of opinion. I want us to read the strongest arguments against our positions. I want us to steel man our opponents' views instead of straw manning them, because that's how you actually win arguments. That's how you actually change minds. That's how you actually build a better world. But there's a bigger picture. Here's the thing about the Coates-Klein conversation. It's not about who won. They both won in life. So much so to the point that if it really got sticky and murky here, they really could leave. Like, none of this cutesy shit or that your second cousin was doing on Instagram saying, if Trump wins, I'm leaving and they ain't going nowhere. These two can leave and be comfortable. So all that picking sides, you need to reevaluate the size thing. Because I don't know if they're inviting you if they have to go and do that. Maybe, I don't know. I have nothing disparaging to say about either one of these men. It's not about who won, because they both won. It's about the fact that the conversation happened at all. And I hope it continues to happen. Two men from very different positions with genuine disagreements sat down and talked it through with respect, with honesty, with scholarship, with friendship. That's what we need more of. Not everybody picking sides, not everyone declaring winners, not everyone performing for their tribes. Conversations, real ones, hard ones, uncomfortable ones. As somebody who's been in multiple sides of this world, as somebody that have been in rooms where people just saw me as Dr. Didn't know my upbringing, didn't know I lived in shelters, didn't know the level of poverty or the level of ratchet that I come from or dysfunction, whatever, or like real ghetto shit, like that. It just comes with real poverty. And I don't say that disparagingly. Like I love how I was raised. I love the skill set that I have that allows me to operate. But I've been in rooms and people not knowing all that, thinking that there's none of us in that room. And they've talked about us like dogs. I've seen black people do it. I've seen black people with a little bit of paper talk about those black people in the hood like dogs. Now, this isn't your opportunity to just start shitting on Democrats per se, because Republicans do it too. It happens. I've seen Democrats do it as well. I've seen everybody do it. So that's why you have to be a critical person with critical thinking skills, because this shouldn't be about who makes you feel butterflies when you talk to them. This is a negotiation. Your leaders have a job to do, and that job is not to date you, okay? So stop falling for that. On that Trump side, they've been romanticized a lot, but there's action on that side. And Trump may have a bigger problem on his hands because they're starting to turn against him in a lot of different ways, because he did all that pillow talking with them, all them promises. Your groceries came down yet? How about them Epstein files he promised you? That's y'all's man. That's y'all's gripe. It can be lonely to exist in gaps. It can be lonely to be the sole critical thinker in a room full of people in your tribe. But if you got good sense, the Lord has blessed you with, then you have a duty to be that. Because in a room, in a nation, in a world full of stupid, intellect has to stand up, and humility needs to be right there for it to lean on. You ain't better than nobody, and I'm not either. But when somebody is saying something factually incorrect, or is just their emotions, you got a duty, if God blessed you with intellect, to use it. Because if you won't use it in the times that it's needed, then you don't deserve it. And the Lord may take it from you. I don't know how. I'm not the Lord. Or whatever you believe in. But I'm telling you, and part of that critical thinking is listening to what everyone is saying and knowing how to summarily reject things that have no backing, no evidence, no science. Do not bank your future on vibes, you fucking adult. Let me be a nerd again, since I just gave you all the duty. We're going to bring this back to my framework. Awareness. Understand that both Coates and Klein are right about different things, and both are limited by their positions. Navigation. Being strategic about when to draw lines and when to build bridges. Not having a one-size-fits-all answer. That is how you navigate. Build up your discernment. Know when to ask more questions. Know when you have to draw hard lines. And maybe this is one of them, and that's fine. But if that's the case, you can show your work in that. We can still have an intellectual exchange about that. And then duty. Make your contribution in time with your resources from your position. Don't try to be everything to everyone. You have to make your contribution in your time with your resources from your position. Build a strong position. Engage with the other side. Strengthen your arguments. Find the holes and weaknesses in your own beliefs and fill those. And once you have, then start singing to the holy heavens, kid. The bottom line is this. Stop looking for leaders in pop culture. Stop having celebrity worship. Be your own person. Be your own leader. Read Coates. Read Klein. Read whoever it is on the right that is actually their philosopher at the moment. Because you want to know how these people are thinking. It's kind of part of your duty. If you want to be an intellectually prudent person that is discussing these type of topics, don't contribute to stupidity. Don't contribute to your tribe being wrong. So read them both. Engage with ideas that challenge you. But don't just pick a side and only consume content that confirms what you already believe. We're smarter than that. We're better than that. And it's actually quite petulant if you do that. It's very childish. Well, mommy said I could have the candy. Daddy said, no, I'm never listening to daddy again. I'm only gonna go talk with mommy because mommy gives me candy. You sound like a 2-year-old, B. Well, Coates writes what I like, and I tend to really like it, and he looks like me and stuff, and so I'm only really gonna listen to Coates. If Coates like that person, if Coates don't like him, then I don't like him. And when you do that, you make yourself susceptible to headlines without even ever hearing the conversation between Coates and Ezra and being like, yeah, that Ezra Klein is a dick. It's a racist punk. It's a racist jerk. You ain't listening to nothing. He very well might be. I'm just saying, you gotta engage with the man first, or don't, be petulant, it's fine. If we wanna win. I mean, if we want to actually protect people, build power, and change systems, not just win arguments like online, not just dunk on people on social media, not just be the popular person at the conference that's at the 5-star hotel, but if we actually want to win and put people in the right seats of power to make sure that the world gets better for everybody around, you can't swallow your pride and be strategic a little bit if we really want to win. To actually protect and build better people and support our elders and secure a bright future for these babies that are coming up, then we need to be strategic and principled. We need to build coalitions and draw lines. We need to win power and use it for actual good. That's work. When you watch Left Lean and stuff or listen to it, they say the work. That's the work. That's always been the work. There's so much history that is being repeated right now. You can tell who were purveyors of history and who read that stuff because so many people don't recognize it. And when you don't know history, you are doomed to repeat it. Let me close. The Coates-Klein conversation wasn't about who won. It was about two friends working through a hard problem together in public. That's the motto. That's what we need more of. Not tribal warfare, not Twitter dunks, not picking sides, just honest engagement with hard questions. So the next time you see a conversation like this, don't ask who won. Ask what you learned. Ask where you stand. Ask what questions it raised for you. Because that's how we get better. That's how we build a better politics. That's how we create a better world. It's how we make ourselves better. It's where humility can be allowed to show up to further preserve our humanity, which is not negotiable, by the way. But that's just me. Wouldn't want y'all to follow me or anything like that. This has been another episode of Color Commentary. I am Dr. Charles Levon Cole III. The conversation starts here. Thank you for listening. We love to hear from you. So drop us an email at colorcommentarypod@gmail.com. Again, that's colorcommentarypod, P-O-D, @gmail.com. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star rating, share it on social media, and join us every Thursday for more Color Commentary with Dr. Cole. Peace.